Hi, Year 10. This is your first assessment task notification for science for the year. It's a hand-in task that accompanies your topic, safe driving. There's there's 4 parts, and you're going to be handing them at various stages throughout the course to make it a bit more manageable for yourself so that you don't have to hand in a massive project at the end. It's just 4 separate components handed in over at 3 separate times. So part 1 is due on Thursday, 17th of March. Part 2 is due to the Thursday, 31st of March, so 2 weeks later. And then when you come back in term 2 on the first Thursday, the 28th of April, parts 3 and 4 are due. This task is worth 30% of your final assessment task for the year. So what's the context for the task? It's going to read it to you. It's always the same thing. Rachel thinks as she's stuck in traffic on her way to school. Air travel is expensive and her dad can't afford to buy her a Skyliner hoverbike. Rachel's best friend, Tina, got one as a present when she started high school. Why can't my dad own shares in an air transportation company? Rachel asked. Not only are the Skyliners expensive, but since oil has become even more scarce and they use up to 4 times as much fuel as a regular car, you practically need to own a small fortune to afford to fly around in one of them. It's the year 2030, and the roads in Sydney are congested to the point where it's almost impractical to drive. The average time it takes for a person to get to work in the morning has increased significantly over the last 40 years. Crawling along at a speed of 10 kilometres per hour, it takes Rachel's father 50 minutes in the morning to get her to school. It's worse on hot days. You can't even wind down the window because the pollution is so bad. Although the car has an air conditioner, Rachel's dad is an environmentalist and knows only too well that having the air conditioner going for almost an hour will only contribute to the environmental problems that the globe is facing. He says the daily average temperature was 2 degrees Celsius cooler when he was my age. The Skyliner solves these issues for those who can afford it. Skyliners are able to travel in the air, avoiding the congestion found in Sydney's roads. Tina is able to travel the same distance as Rachel to school in 5 minutes. The downside to using a Skyliner is that their use in the skies is unregulated. There are no rules like there are on the ground, which has led to a large number of accidents. Also, unlike cars on the ground, the design of individualised air vehicles has no safety standards. As a result, the Skyliner is designed with little to no safety features, and this has led to an increase in accidents resulting in death. So here's the task. The state government of New South Wales has contacted your transport engineering company and asked if you can develop a comprehensive solution to the problems outlined in the future scene. The solution that your company has developed is an improved version of the Skyliner that can drive on the road but can also travel in the air above the road. This futuristic vehicle should be safer and less harmful to the environment than the Skyliner. Your submission to the State Government of New South Wales should include the following. The format for the first part, so this is part 1, which is due on Thursday, 17th of March. From the following list, choose 3 features that you think could be used or modified from vehicles in the past, that is prior to 2030, those that exist now, that could be part of the futuristic vehicle design so that it is safe. So here's the 4: seatbelt, airbag, headrest, and crumple zones. So you choose 3 of those, and then explain how you will use or modify these safety features so they are suited to the futuristic vehicle. So for example, you might decide to take the seatbelt, and today's seatbelts, they're quite good, but they might need being modified for passengers who are using vehicles that can fly. Maybe they need to not just go over one shoulder, but over both shoulders, for example. Using Newton's 3 laws of motion, explain how these safety features would work to protect passengers using the futuristic vehicle. Part 4, using statistics from when safety features were added to early vehicles, that is, using statistics from around the time now, prior to 2030, you have to predict the effectiveness of the safety features of the futuristic vehicle. So, for example, if you can find statistics to show that seat belts are effective in saving lives in 2016, surely then you would predict that seatbelts would improve the safety of your futuristic vehicle. And then lastly, on A3 paper, draw a labelled diagram of your futuristic vehicle and include the safety features from Part A and Part B. This diagram is a draft though and won't be marked. Your teacher's going to look at your draft and give you feedback. So make sure that you put some effort into this and you submit it with the rest of the parts for Part 1A, so from A to D. So what's the format? Please have it typed on A4 paper in a Google Doc and share that Google Doc with your teacher. But you're actually going to submit the A4 paper to your teacher. Just have it stapled, don't submit it in a plastic sleeve. And as a guide, it should be about 1.5 pages. And your diagram should be on A3 paper or on cardboard. Part 2, which is due on the 31st of March, is you have to draw your final design of the safe and environmentally friendly futuristic vehicle. The safety features from Part 1 should be clearly included and labelled in your design. The draft you submitted in Part 1E shouldn't be resubmitted. It should be different. In terms of the forces involved and using Newton's 3 laws of motion, explain how your futuristic vehicle drives along the road at a constant velocity, accelerates upwards from the ground, and maintains a constant velocity while in the air. For each of these stages, that is, this stage, and this stage, you should include a diagram showing the forces acting on the futuristic car to assist you with your explanation. So, if I was, for example, to draw the forces acting on a helicopter, I could go down here to the suggested resources and open up this website, which tells me a little bit about the forces that can act on a helicopter as it's moving through the air. Here we've got 4 forces: the thrust forward force, the backwards drag force, the lift force, and the weight force. As it turns out in this example, the helicopter would be moving to the left at a constant velocity. But this is just a diagram, it's not an explanation, but in your task, you're asked to have diagrams for 3 separate situations, and you also should have explanations to accompany those situations, and that should be done in this table. So the state of motion is driving at a constant velocity along the road. Your explanation should be here, and your diagram of the futuristic vehicle with forces acting on the vehicle should be here. So your diagram, it doesn't need to be a perfect diagram in terms of the detail provided in Part 2A, where you have to do your big poster. You just draw a really simple picture of your futuristic vehicle, and you draw the forces acting on it, similar to how here we've got a simple picture of the helicopter, and then there's the forces acting on it here. So that's Part 2. Then for Part 3 and Part 4. Identify the chemical reaction involved when petrol is burnt. So in this part of the assessment task, you're looking at the chemistry of the operation of your futuristic vehicle. So you're looking at the chemical reaction involved when petrol is burnt. I want a word equation and the chemical equation. Using the products of this chemical reaction, explain why the use of petrol to power your futuristic car would be bad for the environment in 2030 and beyond. For B, you'd have to choose either hydrogen or ethanol as an alternative renewable fuel source to power your futuristic vehicle. And for your chosen fuel source, you are to, number I, describe the chemical reactions involved when your fuel is used. So that would be the word equation and the chemical equation. In terms of energy transformations, explain how the fuel will be used to power your futuristic vehicle. Now in this regard, I don't want detailed explanations of how an engine works. We don't want detailed explanations of how a hydrogen fuel cell works. In terms of the energy transformations, a good example of energy transformations that exist in today's cars is on this website. So when petrol is burnt, for example, we have chemical energy which is stored in the petrol. The petrol is burnt in a car engine, and the energy output is kinetic energy in the engine and wheels, and the car moves. So this is how, these are the energy transformations that take place when petrol is used. We want to know what are the energy transformations that take place when your fuel is used. But like I said, please don't go into lots of detail about how a hydrogen engine works or an ethanol powered engine works. It's not an engineering assignment. We don't want too much detail. So just look at the science of energy transformations. The next part is, by referring to at least one scientific article or magazine, discuss the potential impact of your alternative fuel source on society and the environment. So when we discuss something, we look at the positives and we look at the negatives. So in this regard, if you were to go down to the suggested resources, if you were to click on this link here, it'll take you to some articles that you might decide to use. There's one on biofuels, so ethanol is an example of biofuels. Here's an article on hydrogen and its use in cars. Okay, if you were to click on this article, it talks about hybrid cars. Not really looking for the use of batteries in this assignment, but if you were to scroll further down, there's an article on the use of hydrogen energy to power cars. Okay. So for the next task, for the next part, you're looking at, so for part number 4, you also have to provide a bibliography of at least 3 resources you used in your assignment. You have to use the Harvard system shown in your planner, in your school planner. Actually, I don't think it's in the back of your planner. I'm just going to say in your school planner. You should include references from each of the following. So a scientific magazine or journal, a textbook that you'd use, and also a valid website. Please don't use websites like yahoo.com or answers.com or wikipedia.com. Please use a reputable website, perhaps from a university or an organisation or Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. They are always better. So that last part's due after the holidays. It's due on the 28th of April. Okay. You're going to be assessed on how futuristic your design is. Your design should be realistic, but it may include features that don't yet exist, but don't go too far. You need to be creative. The way in which you explain how your futuristic car works, including its safety features in terms of Newton's 3 laws. Your use of statistics and evidence to support the implementation of your chosen safety features and energy source to power the futuristic vehicle. Your ability to explain using language of cause and effect. The quality of your submission to the State Government of New South Wales, so make sure it's in the correct context. And lastly, the likelihood that your futuristic vehicle will solve the problem outlined in the future scene. Your teacher's going to go through the rest of the details in the assignment. But all the best.